game.
Basketball game tonight.
It's great. Oh. Great. Go check it out. All right, we
Full.
ready?
Ready.
I call the February 22nd work session meeting to order.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Slagle for the council discussion.
Yes, the first item we have this evening is a department update from the Department of Public Safety, and Chief Susan.
Good evening and welcome to the pandemic year that we're going to go over today. Our team, 34 when we're at full staff, 34 sworn officers, 8 firefighters, and 2 civilian clerks. Right now, we are 2 short of being a fully staffed, but 2 of those are in the academy, and the one that is freshly about to start on the 8th of March will have to go to the academy. So it's kind of getting better staff, but still not super helpful yet. So that's where we're at with people. So the first thing that we probably need to talk about is personnel conduct reports. And I bring these up every year. It's kind of a gauge of how we're doing with the community. And you can see that everything was down for us in 2020. I think people were distracted and no one had comments or complaints as much as they ordinarily do. We still got 2 commendations, and then we had 4 issues that we resolved at intake, and 2 that went through the investigation process and were unfounded or not sustained. So that's how we ended up with 8 for the year, which was down a considerable number. Use of force is the next thing that we consider and maintain records on every year. And this was up a little bit with 9 more incidents for use of force. And use of force is anything from actually putting your hands on someone that, that kind of struggles a little bit or has to be put on the ground or that kind of thing in order to be handcuffed. 21 times. 1 OC spray, which is pretty consistent. 4 times with OPNs, which are the nunchucks, and each one of those were just a pain compliance and not a big kung fu fight. And then unholstered weapons is down to only 3 incidents this last year. Total number of calls, this one is really interesting. It's kind of a misleading number. The call totals was 29,417, and that's anytime anybody calls for anything. That's not a request always for an officer to come to the scene. It's a call back or a telephone call or something like that interspersed with all the actual physical responses. And those almost 30,000 calls resulted in 3,000 reports, which is also a misleading number because each one of those reports probably is generating some supplemental reports as well. So the number keeps going up. As a matter of fact, during one of the murder investigations we did this last year, came to a total of 338 reports in one. So that's how those numbers really start to gin. Uniform crime report, this may be the last year that we talk about uniform crime reports. This is all migrated to a new NIBRS report that will involve a lot more crimes than just the Part 1 crimes that we've had in the past. So that'll be a totally different number that we won't really be able to compare with the ones that we have up here. But our Part 1 crimes, which is homicide, rape, robbery, assault, that kind of thing, or aggravated assault, was down 38 from last year for property crimes, and we had a couple of more violent crimes, and we're all aware of that. But that's how we have stacked up for the last 3 years on our UCR.
What does the blue, I can't read your code. What's the blue stand for?
The blue is property crimes,
Okay.
and the little orange one are the violent crimes.
Violence. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I couldn't read the key.
I can't see the numbers.
Drug arrest is always something that people are interested in. We had 31 arrests for marijuana, and this is just ours. We also participate with the East Central Drug Task Force, and but we're keeping our arrests separate on this number because I haven't gotten their numbers in it for last year. So we had 31 marijuana arrests, 23 arrests for other drugs, a total of 54 drug arrests going on. So that was a lot of time invested in that when we couple that with what the task force is doing as well. Guns, this is also a big issue that we go through every year. We had 17 guns stolen in 2020, and we were able to recover 24 guns of different associated years. And as you can see, the last 3 years, we've had 67 firearms stolen. These are largely guns that have been stolen out of cars and that type of thing, that people are leaving guns unattended. And they're ending up in the bad guys' hands. We keep the prosecutors busy. In 2020, we sent 523 cases to Jacob Schellebarger, and we had 443 cases that went to the city prosecutor and 46 to the juvenile courts. So that was quite a bit of thorough work that went to them court ready. About 33% of the courts were ready to go to court of the big number of reports. Traffic enforcement, we had an increase in the tickets that we wrote in 2019 to 112 speed cases, speed tickets, 25 alcohol or other impairment tickets, and then that goes with stop signs and no insurance vehicle registration, leaving the scene, school bus stop arm violations, and assorted other that don't get a category of their own. That's 166 right there. So our theory is the more tickets that we write and the more traffic enforcement that we do, whether it's a ticket or not, ends up in reducing our traffic crashes. And so we did have a drop in traffic crashes. The total crash is the orange on the far left. The next is the ones that were only property damage, nobody got hurt. Then injuries, traffic crashes that had an actual injury in it, and then how many people were injured, maybe more than one person in a single crash. And then fatalities, which last year we had none, and as you can see that one or two has been our annual totals for the past several years. So we hope if we keep doing our traffic enforcement, we can keep these crashes down. Fire service, here are some of the things that we get calls for. There on the left-hand side, false alarms, carbon monoxide, vehicle fires, all the different fires, and we're down considerably in 2020, and that was a special blessing right there. We were very happy to see that number go down. Another function of fire is the business license. We did inspections for our businesses, 484 business licenses last year, which was pretty good considering all the constraints that we had. And we did we did that many licenses, but we only did 44 inspections of the businesses. So 44 inspections of the 484 business licenses that we went through. And that was because a lot of businesses were closed, a lot of them didn't want, extra people coming through the business and that kind of thing, so we didn't get as many business fire inspections done. But we still had 2 fire station tours for scouts or schools or whatever. We had 2 fire extinguisher trainings, and we installed a lot of smoke alarms out in those 194 calls that we got. Here are our new people that came on 2020. You see the probationary officer Myron Woodson and Tanner Craddock. These are the 2 that are currently in the academy. But during the time before they went to the academy, they became certified in the fire station, and they were able to operate apparatus and maintain apparatus. Officer O'Neill, Mack, and White came to us after having had the academy, so they were all ready to hit the ground running. And I believe O'Neill and Mack are both fully certified right now, and White is one of our newer guys from just a couple of months ago. So he's trying to catch up. And then Officer McDonald came back after a brief hiatus, and we were happy to get him back because he was ready to hit the ground running himself. Our promotions, Sergeant Alma Hayes promoted to sergeant, Bill Johnson promoted to lieutenant, and the 2 new detectives, Tyler Bounds and Travis Stout. Everybody's doing a marvelous job. We're really happy with their work, and I think that they're in a great place. Our last person that we have hired is Brock Williamson, and he didn't make it into any of the photo arrays because he doesn't technically start until the 8th of March. With everything else that we had going on in 2020, we still completed 3,806 hours of police and fire training. So maintaining both of those disciplines is a real training masterpiece to get that all in. And then we raised that up by 416 hours from the year before. So we spend a lot of time training, and I think it shows and it pays off in the work that these people do for the community. And that's our fire safety spokesman, Zoe. And we're ready for the future. I think we have a very good group of people on hand doing the work that the community needs. They're very committed to it, and I'm very proud of what they have done. Anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am?
Yeah, I have a question. I just thought about it today. With all the attention that police departments are getting right now in the news and things, are you doing anything that's changing your training? Or are you just pretty much, any new ways that you're addressing training for new officers or old officers or anything like that?
We spend a lot of time doing the things. As a matter of fact, the 2015 president's, I can't remember the exact name, but during the Obama administration, there were a lot of reviews and things that went through. We went back through that this year, and I asked even some members of the community to go over those parameters to see if we were hitting the marks that the president had stressed that we should do. And we got some good information back from the community. We're very active in crisis intervention training. As a matter of fact, some of our people even teach the classes. So they're hitting a lot of the requirements and the marks in that respect too. And we've always practiced de-escalation, and we have always practiced, using the least amount of force that is necessary to gain compliance. So, we feel like we were already where we should be, and we're searching to find new things to keep everybody certified.
When you talk about the community group, is this something you put together recently, or has this been an ongoing thing for a while?
I just put...
How do you put together your community? I mean, your community committee.
I just asked some people to read over it and make some notes and see what they felt we were doing that met those things. It was just really casual. It wasn't any kind of formal or official committee.
Okay, thank you. That's good to know.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Slagle, other business?
Council, I thought it might be an appropriate time now that The sale has happened with the AP Green property, but maybe I talk a little bit about kind of where we're at and kind of where we're going just a little bit. And I think the place to start is a little history. And you guys know it as well as I do, but I think sometimes the viewing audience maybe doesn't know it all the time. And so, the city was involved in an economic development project with Mid-America Brick, and this goes back to 2008-9 timeframe, in order to get them here and to get that plant up and running. And a thing that the city did as a part of that was, what they did was Neighborhood Improvement District, NID bonds. Those bonds were $1,930,000. And that was to get them assistance, to get them up and running. What did the city get in return for that is we basically got the park area up front to use for the 20 years that the bonds were out. And that's where fireworks and different things has gone off over the years and so on. Now, as far as those bonds were, it was that, the property owner had to pay those, but in essence, we were the co-signer of those. So if they didn't, we had to step in. As time's gone along, MAB, Mid-America Brick, didn't survive, ended up in bankruptcy. We went through that process with them to make sure that our position stayed in place, and it did, and Shamrock bought the property and recognized and accepted, the NID bonds as part of their obligation as well. And so during those two ownerships of the property, they paid the bonds regularly, and they didn't miss payments, and so those were taken care of. In 2019, Abacus Industrial Holdings purchased the property from Shamrock. When they purchased the property, they signed and acknowledged, the bonds were there and that they were going to pay them. Well, when it come down to time to make the first payment in December of 19, they didn't make the payment. And with our conversations with them straight out they basically said they weren't going to do it. Well, as you know, that led us into litigation with them. And to say, look, this is your obligation to pay as the owner. So at no time did any bond payments ever get missed. The city made the payments. So there wasn't missed bond payments or anything. But we certainly didn't get our money from them that we were supposed to make. And with COVID and a few other things, the court system's kind of shut down a little bit, and things did not move as quickly as we anticipated. But we went through, in essence, a foreclosure process with them. That's what it came down to. And in November of 20, that would be, we did get a judgment, a court judgment against Abacus in the amount of, $1,667,000. Because that was the outstanding bond payments and interest, and they were also, to pay interest daily, a little over $400 a day. So since then, there's another $36,000 that's been added. But going through that process, then the property came up for sheriff's sale. And in order to protect our investment of our, $1.6 million in our bonds, we bid in an amount of $300,000 to buy that property. That was to legitimize the sale so that we become the owner of the property to maintain our investment. What does that really mean? It means that $300,000 comes off of the $1.667 that they owe us. So it's not like we write them a check. It just comes off of the judgment that we had already against them. So we still have an additional judgment against them of over $1.3 million. But now we have the property. That sale has not been totally complete yet, in that it has to be agreed to and signed off on by the courts, and the judge has not done that yet. Again, I think it's more about COVID than anything. We assumed we'd have that by now. We don't. So that kind of brings us to today. So, but what have we been doing in order to, since the sale and everything else, to say, hey, where are we at? One thing we recognize and know that, when we take property, we're going to have some property and liability issues, insurance, and so staff has already met with our insurance carrier to identify what the needs will be for that. And they've already done a site visit on that. There are 2 leases on that property currently. There is Harvest and Walker out there that leases a building, pays an annual lease payment, and then there is a cell tower. So we've already spoke with both of those folks, working on getting copies of their leases, and so that we can talk about how that will transition to us. And in fact, one of them has already set up a direct payment on their lease to us, so we'll be getting those payments. In both cases, they would like to purchase their own site. And as we've said, we don't know exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to do that at this point. The other thing we've done is we've also engaged our on-service engineering firm, our contract, in order to give us a site plan of the property. So that we have a complete site plan of here's the boundaries of the property, here are the access points, here are the easements, here are the encumbrances that this property has from the leases and everything else, so that we can have something to look at as well as potentially show any future purchaser or whatever else, what do we own, so that you know what you're getting. So we felt we need to start with what's there today. In addition to that, we've also had discussions with the demolition contractor that's on site. And we've talked about what their obligations are, and they've indicated that their obligation is to clean and clear the site. And so once we get that contract, we'll look at that and talk with them further. But at this point, if they're going to finish clearing the site, we're probably better off to leave them in place and let them do that. All of this is step-by-step in workings, where we're at. And I know you know parts of it through over the time, and we've had discussions about it, council, but I thought it was important that we talk about where we're at today publicly, to the point that everybody knows where we're at, what we're doing, and where we're moving. A couple of the questions I've had is, well, why is the city, obligated here? As I commented earlier, we were the co-signer on these in essence, so it's our credit as well. And they said, well, why'd you let them go so long? Well, when you don't own the property, it's not ours to do. And as I explained to one person, I says, when you buy a house and get a mortgage on it, you can do as you wish with your property. Now, if you stop paying, they're going to foreclose, which we did, but it takes time to make that happen. But in that process, you can do pretty much what you want to do, and some people do. And that's just what's happened here. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a counsel publicly as well, where we're standing, what was going on, where we're at. And I know you know most of it, but I thought it was important that we lay it out here. And again, if you've had any comments or questions, I'll do what I can to try to answer them at this time, council.
Is Abacus are we still pursuing them, or are they just folded up, or what's their status?
It's still kind of the step-by-step. Once we get the property, that's our first thing. And then the court will acknowledge that there's still a judgment there, and we will pursue that against that company. Now, I'm not anticipating any assets or anything that company's going to have, looking at their history, and we knew going into this was not a good sale, but we couldn't stop the sale. And we knew that they didn't have a good track record from previous places that they've worked at. So I'm not expecting much from them. So I think the return on our investment will certainly become from the leases and the sale of the property. And again, we'll have to talk about whether we want to try to move the property as a whole or whatever. First thought is to move it as a whole. And now if we can't do that, then we can talk about how we might want to break it down and do some things. But we certainly have to identify all the access points and get everything laid out, and that's what we're trying to do right now. So again, it's just step by step, one thing at a time, until we get it all kind of together and figured out.
Has the weather slowed any of that site process down, or is that
It's done some.
some?
I know they've been working some, but not to the extent that they were.
Have they given any idea on their time frame? I know at one point they said by the end of last year, but
Yeah, I don't know that we have a clear answer to that at this point.
I had a question about the environmental impact of the demolition. Did they have all the clearance and everything from DNR before they start tearing stuff down and everything?
At this point, we believe yes. And DNR has been on site, and in fact, they were here like a couple of weeks ago. And to our discussions with them and with the contractor, everything is up to date. So, yeah. But again, that's what we're being told.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay? That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. So we have a motion to adjourn into regular session.
make a motion.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, do I have a motion to open?
Make a
I
motion.
just have to, I don't need that. I just-
we'll just go into a roll call for the regular.
Just call the roll.
Are you ready? Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, first order of business, approval of the February 8th, 2020 regular session.
I move we approve the minutes of
Second.
February 8th, 2021.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
All right. Next order of business, resolution reading by title only and passage. Bill number 2021-08, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the Freedom of the Road Riders Local 13 for requested funding from the Mexico tourism tax. Mr. Slavin.
Yes, Your Honor. We did receive a request for funding. The Tourism Commission has met, and they have a recommendation, and to cover the recommendation, Roger Haynes.
Good evening, Council. The Mexico Tourism Commission met via Zoom on Thursday, February 18th. And as part of that meeting, they did review a request for tourism funding by the Freedom of Road Riders, Local 13, for a 2021 car show and veterans cruise, which would be held on Saturday, July 3rd, on the downtown area. The amount requested was $1,600. After review of the application in full, the Commission recommends a funding of $650. The Freedom of Road Riders did have a similar request last year, to which they were approved in the amount of $630, and they spent $612. Staff recommends that council concur with the Mexico Tourism Commission's recommendation and proceed with reading by title only and passage of the attached resolution.
What did they put the money toward? You said they spent $615 last year?
612 last year. It was local advertising.
Oh, okay. And that is on the square, right?
Yes.
Now, is what we didn't use last year carried over to this year for tourism, or?
No,
Because I'm sure we didn't use everything last year because of COVID, right?
Right. Everything, if it was not spent, it stays in the tourism fund to be spent, or could be spent on additional or upcoming projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move for the reading of bill number 2021-08.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes. Bill number 2021-08, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the Freedom of Road Riders Local 13 for requested fund from the Mexico tourism tax. I move for passage of bill number 2021-08.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, next order of business, claims.
I move we pay the bills.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, council comments, Mr. Hay.
I'd just like to, I know it was a tough last couple weeks for the street department, but, thanks for keeping the roads clear and it was just tough, get it clear, snow came down, and just kept doing that. But also the I Love Mexico campaign, get out there, get your stamps and go shop local and help out our local businesses, and let's keep our fingers crossed that we get to open up a little bit more and more as we head towards warmer weather and the summer months, and so that'd be a good time to get those stamps and buy local.
I'd just like to give kudos to the street department. I know they worked really hard, and I'm sure they had help from the water sewage department as well, probably. So I appreciate them keeping the roads as clear as they could. I know it was a tough job. Also, I can announce officially that Thursday at 8 a.m., the health department will have the second round of COVID shots. It had to be canceled due to weather and stuff, but it will be from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the YMCA this Thursday. So all those people who are asking and needed the second shot, it will be available. They have it all set up, ready to go. So.
Me? Okay. I got my second shot, and it's a big relief, and I hope everybody, when they get the opportunity to get the shots, they get them. And I would say we used to live down near Houston, and right now I'm so glad we are not living there. If it didn't get up in 60 degrees on a January day, it was really cold there, so I just can't imagine how those people are suffering with that. So the best wishes for them. That's all I had.
Boy, they've hit it all. Snow was good. We're going to get a shot, shop local,
And we're living the dream.
and we're living the dream.
Hey, can't be better than that.
I had nothing to say.
And I'm going to do the same and say ditto. I do want to say congratulations to those wrestlers who made it to state. And see the young lady who got to made history. So I think that's awesome what we're seeing both. And I know the Haigs are happy. I know there's one, I know you're proud for all of them, but I know there's one especially that you're proud of. So awesome. And now at this time, public, if you have any comments, please state name and address for the record and keep comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. Seeing there are none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Shivers,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.